everyone. My name is Susan. I'm the manager at the Upper King William Library.
And I'm Kathleen. I work as an associate here with Susan.
Yes, and so this is the second installment of our podcast. Check this out. This one is going to be on films and what they mean to us. So, I don't know about you, Kathleen. I'm enamored with movies, always have been. I love watching movies. And I used to feel bad about it because I'm a reader.
Yes.
So, we take pride in the book always being better than the movie. But lately, I've started to change my mind on that.
Well, you do a lot of reading, I know.
Yeah.
And so do I. And we both actually watch a lot of movies.
Yes.
And we talk about them. So sometimes we'll say how great the movie was, and other times, oh, the book was so much better.
Yes.
So, but it used to be, I think, that we'd always say, oh, the book's always better.
Right.
But today, I have to say, there are a lot of movies coming out that do honor to the book.
Yeah, and also, I just like the concept of just because something is different doesn't mean that it's inferior to something. And I think a lot of the times when we're reading books, we just have this idea in our heads of a particular character or how a particular scene went, and if it's not what we expect, then we immediately are taken aback. So that's why I have a friend who will want to read the book first all the time if there's a movie, because she just imagines it a certain way.
Am I your friend? Because I always do too.
See, I'm not like that. I'm perfectly fine watching the movie first and then maybe reading the book. Although I will say, if I watch the movie first, I tend to not read the book at all.
And I'd have to say for myself, if I watch the movie and really like it, then I want to know what book was that based on. I've got to read it. True. So would you say that most movies are made from books, meaning they need a story to tell, and so they read a good book, or they think this is a great story, this would be good on film?
Yes. Now, that is interesting because I think there's a tendency to think that everything is used to be original, all the time. And that's not true. Stories and movies in particular, the stories that have influenced movies, I think have always been rooted in some type of story that was already written down or already told, so that the audience can recognize it and have some form of connection to it. And then they're more than likely willing to go see it. So I think it's a way to reel people in to actually go to the theater and watch the film.
Okay, so what is film? Then storytelling.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I don't think film is inferior to literature. It's just different. It's a different way to tell the story. Because, picture it. You're sitting down, either you're at home watching a DVD or you're in a movie theater. It hits you. It's the sound, it's the color, it's the grandeur. It's not just you sitting there and imagining the story, which is great. It's obviously we love doing that, but it's a different experience. And watching a movie to me is an experience.
But I would have to say it's probably it is more passive.
Yes.
You read a book and then you watch a movie. It's just passive, and you're letting the director and the actors do it all, and you're just observing.
Yes, yeah. And it's something interesting about sitting, especially when you go to the theater, because I do prefer to go to the movie theater to watch, especially the movies that I'm very excited about, because let's say, you're sitting in a theater watching a scary movie, which I know you don't do, but
and you do.
Yes, and you're sitting there watching a scary movie, and there's a theater full of people. Unfortunately, not right now due to COVID, but there's a theater full of people, and you all react to the same thing. It's a communal experience.
And I was talking to a director of a movie, and she told me that she only goes to the theater to see movies. Mm-hmm. And I was really surprised because she makes movies. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, you have to go to a theater because that's what directors make them for. Mm-hmm. They make them for the big screen. However, there are a lot of things coming out today that are more, for home screens.
Right. And and there's good things that come out of that too. I stream a lot, so I can't say that all movies are, can only be seen on the big screen. But, for example, I went to the theater to watch the sequel to A Quiet Place 2. And before the movie started, John Krasinski, who is the director of both the original and the sequel, kind of introduced it and said, thank you for coming out to the theater. Obviously, it's been a trying time with COVID and everything. And he said, I just, I could have released this through some streaming service, but I just felt like this is a movie that has to be seen in theaters. It has to be experienced. And, like the director you spoke to, when he conceived it,
it was a
where
she.
he pictured it. Yeah.
Oh, but you're talking about John
Krasinski, yeah. So I can definitely understand that because it is an art to them. It's not just, it's not just a way to tell the story. Like you're analyzing things. You can think through it. It's a very passive experience, especially compared to books, but you can still kind of think through things. I find myself doing that after the movie's over.
Okay.
Whereas with a book, I'm doing it as it's happening.
So you're being more entertained.
Yes, then. Like I'm sitting there watching, whether it's the soundtrack or if the actors are doing really well. It is entertainment. But I consider reading books entertainment too. So.
I do too. So since we're talking about books versus movies, the library does have a lot of books and movies of the same subject. Do you have any favorites that you've seen and read then seen, or the other way around?
Oh my gosh.
Well, I'm going to start off right away.
All right, go ahead.
Lonesome Dove. It is a series. It was made for TV.
Mm-hmm.
But the library does have a copy of that. And I did read the book by Larry McMurtry.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the book. And when I saw the series, though, I really thought that it was really, they did a great job.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Gone with the Wind. I loved the book. It was a long book. It was a long movie. But I loved the movie. It was made in Technicolor. I mean, so everything just popped out at you. And it actually stuck pretty close to the storyline in the book, which I know is a criticism of some movies. But I loved the acting in it. I mean, it was you could tell that the production of it was a grand affair. So I really appreciated that.
Well, Heidi, I just read the book about a year ago, and I just felt so joyful after reading the book, and I thought, now I have to go back and find a movie. And the library has a couple different copies, different makes of it. And in fact, I just got Shirley Temple's version, which I can't wait to watch. But that's a good one. And then, of course, Little Women. Did you see? There's.
Oh well, here's the thing. I have to admit something right now. I have never read Little Women. I know. Everyone else in the world has, but I never have read it. I did watch the newest version. That. What the director's name is, but Greta Gerwig. She directed it. I was not impressed, honestly, with that particular version, but I've been told that the version with Susan Sarandon in it is really, really good. Did you see that one?
Yes, I did see that one, and I read the book.
Yeah.
And of course, that was just a coming of age, growing up, reading Little Women.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Love that.
Okay. Now, Lord of the Rings by Tolkien, the book.
Yes.
Okay, and then the director, Peter Jackson. Like I said to you earlier, I really do believe that if Tolkien was alive today, I think he'd be honored by what was made of his book, how they put that imaginative story on film.
You know what's interesting? The Lord of the Rings was made, I think at this point, decades ago. It's hard to think that, but yes, decades ago. And I'm amazed. I recently went back and watched it because I just had a nostalgic feeling. I was like, I want to watch The Lord of the Rings again. And it was so good. Like there's some movies that I think the technology
Yeah.
with special effects, you're thinking, that doesn't look so realistic anymore. Like, but the special effects that were done on the Lord of the Rings were so good that they still hold up to this day.
Yeah.
So I would agree with you that Tolkien would be proud of what was done for his work, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was always apprehensive of the idea of having his story
Mm-hmm.
be put on the big screen. And I don't know if a lot of authors feel that way. I would think they would, because I mean that's kind of your baby, and you
Yeah.
have it a certain way in your mind. And then to see someone else's interpretation of it, which is what it is. That's what a film is. That's come from a book. It's just a different interpretation of a story. Because books hit us all differently.
Right.
So just because you thought about something when you read a particular book doesn't mean that director got that from it.
Well, that was really good, Lord of the Rings.
Yep. But there's all kinds of different subjects associated with film. There's different genres of movies, and I think most people tend to have a certain genre that they gear into.
Yes.
But the best movies I found are, a lot of them are on the Criterion Collection.
And the library, I looked it up, they have 160 movies that are in the Criterion Collection. So the Criterion Collection, it's dedicated to gathering the greatest films from around the world and important classics and contemporary films. And when you get something that's from the Criterion Collection, there's usually extras on it where they talk with either actors or directors or historians, and it's really great that the library has so many.
Right. And that's funny because we think of classics only associated with books here, but
Yeah.
there's classic films, and it's always interesting to see what film makes the Criterion Collection, because sometimes I'm surprised and I'm thinking, well, maybe let me have a look at this to see what made it so special to be put on the Criterion Collection. But I appreciate the fact that it is international and it crosses genres. So there's people that think that horror movies are not classics. There's a bit of snobbery when it comes to film. But there's horror films on the Criterion Collection. So there is a way of making, I think, any movie from any genre into something that can have a reach into different communities, I think, even if it's not your favorite genre.
Well, I was looking on the collection, and there's a lot of, Alfred Hitchcock.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
James Ivory. I tend to gravitate to those movies. They're kind of romantic period pieces.
Mm-hmm.
He did Room with a View, Howard's End, and Remains of the Day, which are also all books.
Yeah.
But I just love those movies.
And I mean, there's all kinds of different directors that are on there. Even if only one of their films. I mean, it's amazing to see, Hitchcock probably has a bunch of different titles in the Criterion Collection.
He does.
But, to see up-and-coming directors already be in the Criterion Collection, like Sofia Coppola. And that leads us right into our next genre, which is directors.
And some of our favorites.
Sofia Coppola is one of my favorites. And the way that I describe it is that, she's the daughter of Francis Ford Coppola, who's also one of the greatest directors of all time, with The Godfather.
And Goodfellas.
And
No,
Goodfellas.
that was Martin Scorsese.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
Which,
there you go. There's another one.
There's another one. So yeah, she just has a way of creating an atmosphere in her movies with, again, the soundtrack, the cinematography, the actors she chooses. I mean, she's just very particular about the elements that go into her films, and she crosses periods, and so it's not just one thing that she's into. I mean, she's done Lost in Translation, which was a really good movie, The Beguiled, which actually was a book. So she's big on that too. She's a big reader, so she's buys the rights for the books and turns them into films, and it's always very original. You can just tell that that's a Sofia Coppola film.
Yes.
And the same can be said for Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, yes. He's done some great films.
For better or worse, you always know when a Tarantino film is on.
Yep.
His themes, obviously, it tend to be very violent.
Mm-hmm.
But revenge is also something that it is in all of his movies. You can always get that feeling. And he's very original with his casting as well. He tends to reuse the same actors, and it's always worked out well for him. So Wes Anderson.
Oh yeah, the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yes, and the Grand Budapest Hotel,
Yep.
which is
Love it.
I love that film. It's amazing how he's able to create that vision and execute it. It's amazing.
And then you did mention Peter Jackson.
Yes, love him. He did the Lord of the Rings films. I mean, he's done a couple films in New Zealand as well, and he's going to be doing a new film on the Beatles, which I'm very excited about.
Ooh,
love the Beatles. But yeah, I mean, and these directors cross over into different genres as well. Obviously, they don't all do the same
right
thing, but you love period pieces.
I love period pieces. So
why?
Well, first of all, just the gorgeous costumes and just the era, and I like going back in time and just seeing the beauty of it all. A Room with a View, I loved. You like the King's Speech.
I love the King's Speech. Colin Firth was in that with Helena Bonham Carter, and it was acted so well. The thing I love about period pieces is that if it's done well, like you said, with costumes, with set designs, it just has. I become intrigued in the time period, and then it leads me to want to read about that time period. So it puts me in the kind of mood, like I get made fun of this a lot, but I love Titanic.
Hey, that's considered one of the greatest movies. So.
Yeah, I mean, the feat that it took for him to film that and put it on the big screen, to me, was amazing. Like you said, the small details. I mean, you go back and you look at pictures of the Titanic, and whoever the set designer was did such a good job. The costumes, I mean, you just feel like that's the era. So, I mean, I love them too. And I can definitely understand why. And they're coming. It's nostalgia.
Yes.
Even if you didn't live through that time. No, I was not alive in 1912. But I love being immersed in that time period.
The Enchanted April. I love that.
Pride and Prejudice, any version.
And the library has several.
Yes.
But I got to say my favorites with Keira Knightley.
Yes, and she, I've talked about this with so many book lovers, and they love the Colin Firth version, which I love me some Colin Firth, obviously. But I preferred the Keira Knightley one, too.
I could watch that over and over. It was just so beautiful.
There was a romanticism in it, and the way that it was shot was so beautiful. I can still see Mr. Darcy, walking across the field. I love it. Okay, so to jump forward, I love musicals. I know you disagree.
I do not, but okay.
It's one of those you either love them or hate them. There's no in between.
Well, is there? You told me to watch Across the Universe.
Yes.
And I did like that.
Yes. But you like the Beatles.
Yeah.
So then there you go. I guess you have to have a tie-in.
Yes, you do. So name me some of your favorite musicals.
Well, The Sound of Music.
Oh, well, of course I love that.
That is, it's a classic, of course.
It's a classic.
Keep on with Julie Andrews. The Mary Poppins.
Oh, yes, I did like that too.
Let's see, The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I guess I like that too. Yeah. So, all right, maybe.
Well, you like the classic musicals.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element when you have a voice as beautiful as Judy Garland, as Julie Andrews, it's kind of hard not to love it. But I can see how some people find it jarring to all of a sudden be talking and then kind of burst into song.
Yes.
I love the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's one of my favorite movies.
That's a cult classic.
It is a cult classic. But see, that's another thing. I love that it's rock and roll. Totally different from, say, The Wizard of Oz, which is more classical. But that's a very original movie, in my opinion.
That was a cult classic years ago when I was quite young. We used to go to this really artsy theater in Phoenix, and they would serve cheese and wine before the movie, and we'd be getting out of the movie, and there were all these people lined up, and this is back in the early 80s. Okay. People lined up, and it was late at night, and they were showing the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
And it was more than once a week, too, that they would just line up for this.
Well, that's the thing. It's like people that love it, and I love it, but I don't go that far with it. I haven't quite dressed like Dr. Frankenfurter yet. But like I was saying earlier, it's a communal experience. Like, they've seen the movie hundreds of times, and they like interact with the screen, which is interesting if you've never experienced that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've heard.
But yeah, I mean, I loved, you can just burst along and sing with them if you love the song, if you know the song. I am a big fan of the MGM musical era. Okay. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Oh, that's fun.
I love it. I love it. Singing in the Rain.
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah, I mean, even if you should at least watch them at least once. They are classic for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the, you see a different form of art, I guess, is my favorite part about it. So acting is a form of art, directing is a form of art. But then you see dancing and singing that comes along with it. It's fun. I mean, I just always have a fun time after I see a musical.
A musical.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads us, to our favorites?
Yeah, our all-time favorites.
That's really hard for me to say here, but I think I've already mentioned some of them.
Yeah. I mean, every time, whenever somebody asks me what's your favorite movie, my brain goes blank, and it's like I've never seen a film in my entire life. So it's hard for me to sit here and name my favorites.
But you did.
I did. I mean, I think this is going to sound strange, but Back to the Future is probably my number one response when people say that to me when I eventually get my bearings straight. I think it's such good storytelling. Mm-hmm. Like we were talking about earlier, it's just you kind of root for the nerdy guy, and he's up against his bullies, and at the end he gets the girl, and you always get a good feeling after you've watched that movie. I love it.
I'm not going to say what my favorite is because I seem to go, whatever I see, if I really like it, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I might have my favorite period pieces that I'll watch over and over. But some of the early movies that affected me that I really liked, I remember Mad Max, I thought was, for a B movie, that was so interesting and new for its time. I loved that. And then when I want a good laugh, I just love The Big Lebowski. I've seen it several times, and it just makes me laugh.
I love John Goodman in that movie. He is amazing.
That is so good.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, see, here's the thing about favorite movies. They all hit you different, just like books. And that's why you can't really judge.
Right.
And I'm not a connoisseur of film or anything. So I can't go through and name you all the different little details as to why. I can just sit there, and if I love the movie, if I can watch it multiple times, like let's say I go back to it years later and it still gives me a good feeling, that's when it becomes a favorite film of mine. So for example, Baby Driver, which is such a, you can't even call it a B movie. It's just such a generic action film. And yet the soundtrack is amazing. The acting is kind of like, what's the word for it? It's almost like they don't even take themselves that seriously. And they know that this movie is just kind of for entertainment purposes only. But I love it.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I think we're a little biased here. We are not talking about action movies, and the library has so many of those.
Yes.
But we just don't seem to gravitate towards them.
No, and that's the thing. It's not usually one of my... never.
But they're there. Mm-hmm. They're there. We just don't want people to think that it's all these,
Oh, yeah. We have a ton. If you've ever heard of a Marvel film, we have it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah. So those are some of our favorites. But what about what film critics think are the greatest films of all time?
Oh boy! So we only want to mention what the library has.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So of course these aren't in order of any kind. They're just from different lists that we culled.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with saying Jurassic Park, Spielberg.
I love that movie. And see, that's another one of those movies that you would think that the effects that were in it would just be so obsolete now because they've got so many different computers that can, do different types of things. And yet it still holds up.
Yep, it does.
They just do.
Okay.
So total classic. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Hilarious.
Yeah, love that.
Hilarious. And then we did mention Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm. 2001: A Space Odyssey, which I have not seen.
Stanley Kubrick. Oh, it's a classic.
Well, I guess I got to watch it.
You have to watch it, and the library has it.
Mm-hmm. All right, Forrest Gump.
Everyone loves Forrest Gump.
Yeah, kind of. Everybody loves Tom Hanks.
And then Pulp Fiction, Tarantino.
There
That's
he is.
Not for everyone,
No,
but okay.
But if you love it, he's good. Rocky. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I saw that on my honeymoon.
So
So that's dating myself. It's when it first came out, and I had just got married, and we had gone hiking, and then Brad's like, "Okay, let's go see Rocky." And I'm like, "Oh, that
That's
sounds
such a-
very romantic."
such a boy thing.
I know.
But you know what? I have someone that would tell me that it is completely romantic. I have never seen it. I have never seen any of the Stallone. And
Oh yeah, you have to watch the first one.
but Sylvester Stallone wrote it, didn't he?
Oh, that I don't know, but
I
it's
think he
good.
did. And I'm thinking, well, it kind of seems like something Sylvester Stallone would write. So
Okay.
yeah, there's Rocky, The Shining.
Shining, I watch that usually every October.
See, I've never seen that either.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jack Nicholson. Okay.
Okay, and then there's Jaws.
I love a shark movie.
Oh, yeah, you said that.
I love
All
a
I can
shark
think of is
movie.
Jaws when you
Yeah.
say shark movie.
Well, see, it kind of started a genre of its
Yeah.
own. I don't know what it is about it. It's like the peril. I'm terrified of the sea precisely because of Jaws.
Of Jaws.
And all the shark movies I've seen is like all of a sudden that shark's just going to come and take a chunk out of you, which they don't usually do. It's so rare.
But they do.
But I love it.
Okay.
Vertigo.
Hitchcock. He's got several
Yeah.
good ones. And then, of course, Star Wars.
Never seen it. Never seen.
Oh my gosh, a
one
classic again.
Single Star Wars movie. I know. I have to
Oh.
watch it. One of these days, I will sit down and watch it.
Oh, wow.
The original.
That was great. Okay.
That'll do.
Okay.
Braveheart.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
I love Braveheart.
I think I saw it.
Mel Gibson.
Yeah. Yeah. On horseback. Yeah, that's him. Okay.
Okay.
The Godfather.
Yes. And
Oh, okay.
Francis Ford Coppola.
That was a book too. I
Yes.
think. I like the book better.
Okay. Mario Puzo, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
The Matrix.
Matrix.
Have you seen it?
Classic.
Oh, I never seen it. This
Okay.
is showing how little I know about great cinema. No, I've never seen it.
Well, I don't know a lot. I just watch movies.
Somebody's been trying to convince me to watch that movie for a while now, and I just don't want to.
Well, it's kind of a classic, I think.
Now I
Okay.
think I'm just being stubborn on purpose.
One of the best. Okay.
Singing in the Rain,
Yeah.
of course.
Parasite,
Love
another
that
one.
movie.
That's really
That
good.
was such a good movie. And it was kind of tricky because at first I thought, oh, well, this is a comedy. I'll love this. And then it gets
Yes.
super serious
Yeah.
out of
And
point.
like really surprising.
Yeah,
It's
and
kind of
but I still love it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Goodfellas.
Goodfellas, yeah, another Scorsese.
love
Tough to watch,
that
but
movie.
really consider one of the best.
Well, it was acted so well.
Yep.
I mean, and I think if I'm not mistaken, that was a true story that he was telling, and you really believe that.
Mm-hmm.
You believe that every single one of those guys was a gangster. No comment as to whether, but anyway. So the Big Lebowski.
We mentioned that.
of
And then we
course.
mentioned One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Did we?
I don't know if we did, but
Okay.
I've not seen that movie.
Oh, that is so good.
No.
Okay.
Back to the Future. We mentioned that.
Yeah. Yep. Some Like It Hot.
Another Marilyn Monroe
Yep.
movie. Love her. When Harry Met Sally.
Rob Reiner. Yeah.
Who did Rob Reiner? Did he direct The Princess Bride? Because if he did, I love that movie.
Okay.
That should be on the list. Okay, there's Psycho.
Yeah, Hitchcock
You
again.
saw that one, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Who hasn't seen Psycho?
Anthony Perkins. Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Shawshank Redemption.
That was really good.
Never seen it.
Oh, that was good. Did you see Edward Scissorhands?
Yes,
Okay.
that one I did. And you know what? There's something so quirky about that movie. I can definitely see why it's on the list of greatest films of all time. I mean,
I love Topiary, if that makes a difference.
All right, The Graduate.
Graduate, great music on that one. 12 Angry Men.
I didn't see that one.
Okay, that's an old black and white that we have.
Okay, Dead Poet Society.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie.
That was good.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Especially after.
Is that Seize the Day?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Seize the Day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, never saw that one.
And Casablanca.
I saw that one.
Another great one.
Yeah. And then Steel Magnolias.
Well, I put that there just because I was asking my coworker, what was your favorite movie? And she said Steel Magnolias.
I kind of love Steel Magnolias.
I said, don't you cry a lot at that? She said, every time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason.
And then I have to say, E.T. I didn't see that on there, but E.T. was incredible.
It is interesting. That movie always creeped me out as a kid.
Oh, that was a great movie.
But yeah. Anyway,
right.
so just to say, these are some. Obviously, we could not even
Right.
go too into any of these genres because there's so many great films that come from it. But the ones that we mentioned, you can all get at the library. So you just go on our catalog, give us a call, put it on hold for you, and we can have it brought here to any of our branches. So yeah, I mean, I would encourage you all to kind of think about your favorite films and see if the library has them. We more than likely do.
Yeah, so check us out and see you at the movies.
See you at the movies. That's where I'll be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.